r/AskMen. Similar underscore nothing underscore 7509 says, what life lessons that your father taught you do you still hold on to? No Entertainment 8486 says, you're a big kid and will be a big man. Use your size and strength to help others and defend those smaller or weaker than you. I'm 4R33 says, with great power comes great responsibility. Away underscore description underscore 687 says, electricity bill. That Volvo P2 guy says, don't drive faster than what you can see. GSD underscore dad says, you cannot speed your way to being on time. If you are late getting to where you are going, you were late before you ever left the house. Zankson95 says, it's better to get there late than not getting there. Stop underscore touching underscore me one says, if half a dozen different people have a problem with you, they aren't the problem, you are. Whitefire89 says, this is a favorite one of mine. Whenever everyone or everywhere else is a problem, there is a strong chance the problem isn't everywhere or everyone else. Japrakive says, my father taught me the same, but I was so dumb and childish to see the depth of this. I wish I could just go back Mayo. Whitefire89 says, life is pretty easy if you don't mess it up for yourself. Don't get in legal trouble, watch who you hang out with, don't have unintended kids, etc. Preventing self-inflicted wounds makes life a lot better. Florida 1693 says, great advice. Ozarkhawk59 says, making others look bad doesn't make you look better. Words left unsaid says, woman here, but wanted to share, if that's okay. One of the earliest lessons was that, if a man holds a door open for you, pause, make eye contact, and thank him. I rarely see express gratitude for small acts of courteousness, and it makes me sad. Mr. underscore Bill 2826 says, I think this may be different, based on the area where you live. Where I'm in Michigan, it's a pretty typical behavior to hold the door open for another person. Typically, a thank you is reciprocated. I do recall, though, while at a bar, I did my typical thing, to hold a door for these two ladies. For the first time, they expressed their extreme gratitude and complimented me, saying that they had just moved there, and it was the first time anyone had ever done that. That stuck with me for some reason. CNNRM88 says, sometimes, when something tragic or heartbreaking happens, you never truly get over it or move on, you just learn to live with it. Sarksfan 15203 says, the world owes you nothing. Big Zaddy 64 says, don't argue with a cop. B Monster 666 says, my dad was a cop. I learned this pretty young by the stories he'd tell. A cop's job isn't to interpret the law, it's to enforce the law. They can make mistakes. They can misunderstand a certain aspect of the law. If you feel a fine or penalty of some kind is unfair or wrong, take it to court and explain to the people who are paid to interpret the law. Outside Prior 2020 says, wasn't taught this, but it's something I wish children were taught. There is a time to argue your case in court, but with the cops is not it, especially since some of them can escalate situations to fatal outcomes. Erect Chode says, that small act of kindness you did for somebody may be remembered by them for many years, even if you don't realize it. We were visiting my dad's hometown and he saw an old friend there, and even though they hadn't seen each other in like 20 something years, the friend still remembered some of the things my dad did for him. Custer Sombra says, don't let emotions affect your life. No matter if those emotions are your own or someone else's. Whitefire89 says, this is 100% true. A lot of people look really stupid and get into a lot of trouble when they let emotions get the better of them. The sooner people can learn that, the better off they are in life. Thelos Noob says, indirectly not put women before money, and not put money before family. Ambulance driver 826 says, don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the second best time is now. Measure twice, cut once. Once words come out of your mouth, they can't be taken back. Stark Boy says, biggest blow to a toxic person is when you don't respond to what he/she does. r/AskMen. Foxy Pirate 1432 says, how do you make time for yourself in a busy schedule? With a 6-month-old baby, work, and trips to the hospital multiple times a week, I feel like I've never got any time for me. So how do you guys deal with not having time in a busy schedule? Edit. For context, the hospital trips are a new development caused by both of my kidneys failing and requiring me to go 3 times a week for 5 hours at a time. Felt that should be included. CPT Connor 18 says, I don't. I just suck it up and keep my fingers crossed I'll have a free hour or 2 tomorrow. Sometimes you need to just be front about it and do what's best for you, even if it'll cause some friction/resistance. You're just as important as anything else. Snoo Lemons 5609 says, sucking it up. With a child, you are no longer the most important person in your life. Dreadful Raw says, I stay up too late playing on my phone. I can't recommend this tactic. Conching Hell says, work is now my free time. Or after everyone has gone to sleep. Jman 12311 says, some comments in here are kinda mean. But there's nothing really you can do. Once you have a child, your social/private life is forfeited, unless you have a good support system. Ratnix says, I mean, you decided to have a child. For the next few years, either you find a babysitter and get what little time you can. Or you suck it up and realize that the life of the child you brought into this world is the most important aspect in your life, and you're going to have to make some sacrifices. Ignore1 Tess says, you either set aside time in your planner or suck it up until you're less busy. Sleep, you time, work, family time, friends time. You only have 24 hours, so that means you need to give up time for something else. Maybe set aside 2 hours every other week that you switch with your spouse/baby mama to do what you need to be done. The other thing is pay for someone else to give you free time. If you and your wife spend an entire day cleaning and doing the lawn, maybe just front up money to have someone do that for you, to do the deep clean and lawn. Or if you can afford to, get a nanny. Because Dickus 6969 says, I spend some days focusing on what makes me happy. If I want tacos, I eat tacos. If I want a bourbon and a cigar, I do that. Crass Demon says, I jerk off in the shower. r/AskMen. Hungry Hippo 414 says, men who have confessed their feelings dramatically to someone they weren't dating. What happened? To clarify, for a friend, a coworker, etc. Someone in your life you were not actively pursuing something romantic with. Travy Jeep says, go down in flames like the man I am. American Golden Jackal says, do not deliver a monologue like a frick ein movie point. If you deliver a stupid confession monologue, it's unbelievably awkward. Invite them to join you for an activity like a normal person. El Santo 9298 says, shit didn't work at all. Wish I hadn't panicked and had just asked her out on a date instead. I mean, she prob still would rejected me, but hell, it'd have been a 1% chance instead of 0%. Igibdog says, got burned so hard I learned my lesson and never did that again. Hugh Jambo 11 says, I don't see you that way. NC underscore on says, they will try to say something nice and motivating whether they give a shit or not. It feels nice to let it out. If you do it to the right person, it will help a tiny bit but not much. Technical underscore put underscore 9173 says, friendzoned laughed because she thought it was a joke. I love Takus 901 says, I took her daughter off her hands so she doesn't have to worry about her anymore. I definitely got the shit end of that deal. Galvatron 6793 says, when I tried tell her, she told you know you look good, but I love you as a friend. I didn't tell her. End of the story. Karakoimus says, she very gracefully said no. I had some girls flinging Thim's Elvis at me. I handled it terrible first time, but I learned from my own reject. JDOG0616 says, IDK, I'll let you know when I do. r/AskMen. Background underscore off 713 says, at which age you guys became father? What was your emotions? What is changed since you became a father? Thick underscore letterhead underscore 742 says, I was 41 and honestly never cared for a child one way or the other. Someone told me not to worry if Elle didn't bond with the baby straight away, which Elle thought was an odd thing to say. Turns out they were right. For the first year or so Elle felt nothing, like we were babysitting someone else's child. Then he started to walk and become interesting, and things gradually changed. Unfortunately his mum left me for my best friend a couple of months later and turned my world upside down. I had him every weekend and a day during the week. 10 years later I'll have the same visiting arrangement and we have the absolute best relationship ever. What Elle thought Elle didn't want turned out to be the best thing Elle ever did and was the making of me. Rice underscore child says, I was 27. For context, when I was in my early 20s, I knew I wanted to be a father. After stopping the birthday control, we tried for 3 years. My wife at the time told me on my birthday, see my daughter and seeing who a woman can deliver live into this world. It hit me that the world was way bigger than myself. I had this baby counting on me. She gave me motivation to be a better person and work harder than ever before. Watching her grow up, you consider things so simple in life that you often take for granted, like looking up at the sky or playing in water. Unfortunately, her mother and I are no longer together. But if there was anything I knew I did was right in my life, it was my children. If you're curious, my daughter and I still have a fantastic relationship. Because Dickus 6969 says, suddenly I knew we were out of milk and it was up to me to make a run to the convenience store. UN underscore blob says, they are now Avis posters on r/dad jokes. Former underscore difficulty underscore 48 says, 19. Now I have 3 at 32. Do not have kids unless you are financially ready. It's not fair to you or your kids to live the broke life. My life now is being with my kids and growing together. They are absolutely my best friends by a mile. r/AskMen. Perpetual Roast says, how do you start over? Recently divorced, moving to a new city, and I know nothing and nobody other than my boss and landlord. I'm afraid, and the suck is real. I know other people have been through this as well, so I'm hoping for advice. Haven't I Alhead 3 says, recently divorced, moving to a new city that should help. Now you are in a new place and can do new things or old things in a new place and meet new people. Sweet underscore code 7963 says, join a gym. Join a new church, if applicable. Work on yourself. Take a class, join a rec league. Get on dating apps. I've been in your shoes when I was 30. I got super fit, started a masters, and matched with a 24-year with a career on a dating app. Match. 10 years later we are married with 2 little ones. Don't be afraid to get counseling if you need it. It helped when I was going through it. Far_incident_9163 says. Find a new hobby. I picked up trail running, which is terrible for the social life, but gave me the space I needed. Things like disc golf leagues could be a good place to meet some friends. Just don't be that guy sitting alone at a bar. Bionic Bunny says. I wish I could answer. I never started to start over. Mike 29401 says. Go do volunteer work for a cause you believe. Learn Jiu-Jitsu. Either/both of these will put you in a group of quality people that make friends easily. Friendly_neighbor 229 says. Go out to restaurants and bars, dating apps. Try not to get stuck in a rut. American Golden Jackal says. Congratulations. Does she have child hostages, or are you totally unimpeded? Time to explore that new city. Do you have or have you had any hobbies? Intriguing Knight says. It's going to be really rough at the start, I can't lie to you. Start with going to the gym and build up your body and confidence. KSMHD says. If you have a source of income, starting over is a very good thing. Now you start with a clean slate, but with the lessons you've learned before, rebuild how you want it now. G0N0G0GO says. You're not starting over from scratch, you're starting over with experience, and that's far better than the first one. r/AskMen. Different2sex says. After a normal running or workout session, I always have an intense feeling of fullness/pressure in my ears, the same one that you'd get driving up a mountain, or an extreme anxiety attack, which could last hours. How do you solve something like that? It's been interfering with my ability to consistently work out. Sometimes this pressure could lead to a headache, which ruins my first hours of work, especially after a morning running session. Anyone here had the same problem? And how did you solve it? Thanks. Freaking Lost 2020 says. Nurse here, go to the doctor. Stabmaster says. Sounds like a potential blood pressure issue, go to a doctor. Obbit 1965 says. Have you considered seeing a cardiologist or pulmonologist? They can do a few tests and labs that don't hurt and are easy to do. GW Green says. Definitely above Reddit's pay grade. Ask a doctor. 2 damsels 1 chalice says. Third vote for doctor. Triple down if you don't know and or don't regularly monitor your blood pressure. Worry $49.99 says. This is a doctor question. Cruddy Rebel says. Go to the doctor immediately. You should also try doing pre-workout gymnastics. I get this tension in the ears sometimes. But not for very long, and after a powerful exercise. Doctor. Fast. Frick you buddy 90 says. Go and visit a doctor. I had something similar once, but it was during a supervised VO2 maximum test. Nearing the end I felt like my eardrums were about to explode. I almost fainted not long after. The doctor wasn't worried as I was pushing the limits of my physical capabilities. He explained, but I can't recall exactly what he said. Out of curiosity, do you push yourself to the maximum every time this happens? Corrupted Culprit says. Either go to a doctor or just yawn. Fig Slave says. High blood pressure or sinusitis on my first guesses. See a drive. TikTok and Meeballs says. This is why it's important for men to have a PCP, primary care physician, in the USA. Questions like this go straight to your doctor and they can refer you to specialists as needed. Eastside Feta Boy says. I used to have the same problem. Wear a headband over your ears when you go for a run. It helped me. Yak frick, 5000 says. Sounds like a blood pressure issue. I get a similar problem when I take a lot of stimulant drugs. Usernamesophy says. Talk to a doctor. Best underscore of underscore slanesh says. I get tinnitus after hard physical exertion. Yours could be a similar issue. If it is, then your doctor probably isn't going to know what's causing it. Mine didn't. Takatangit says. Hold your nose shut and breath. Blow out until release. Ronald Elliott says. Just stick a needle in and pop it. Your head might spin around like a popped balloon, but you'll feel fine after. r/AskMen. Pixelated NPC says. How do you deal with being stressed all the time? Yellow Shorts says. If it's literally all the time, try to find a way to get out of that situation. If my job was causing me non-stop stress, I'd be doing anything I can to get a new job. Other than that, my me time is very important. Running, biking, soccer, anything that lets me go have fun and not really think about anything. Dreadful Raw says. Drinking. Have a dick for I says. Step back and try to pick something I'm grateful for in that moment. Sol Rake says. I have never been stressed all the time. Personally, I think the best way to deal with it is embrace it, deal with it, then move on. Man Dude Boy says. Sometimes. Weed. All the time. Run away. Jim on a Bike says. It used to be drinking. Now it's swimming laps twice a week, biking on weekends, and a bit of CDB. A glass of wine on occasion. Anonymous 80,909 says. I take my meds. Nitsuch says. Anger, frustration, self-pity, and weed. Perfection Pending says. Yard work. Workout, though health issues have put that on hold for several months. Time with my wife, whether it's cuddling, talking, sex, taking a walk, it's all stress relieving. Ekagra 911 says. Just get the job done. Delaying something elongates the time I stress about it, so I just do it and get it over with. Rayquaza 2233 says. Eventually my stress threshold increases to the point where I can tolerate it until something else happens. And Long 1212 says. The gym. Tacticalx Havoc XBOX says. My cat, gaming, and sleep. I_S says. Just breath and think about something primitive like colors, shapes, things around me. It really helps. Ryderslow says. Sigh and take a nap. Usernamesophy says. A lot of life changes, and getting help made me not be stressed all the time. Keras85 says. Working out and going for walks. Corvus says. Stoicism and exercise. Francesc says. Prozac. Split IS says. FPS online. r/AskMen. Navinjink_ says. How do you want to start your day? Diesel KC says. Getting a BJ from my wife. Away for Sorbet says. I also want a BJ from this guy's wife. Blue Blau says. I don't. Shelf Biomatus says. Slowly, with caffeine and few hours of peace and quiet. Akakius_Delta says. A cup of coffee before going to the gym early in the morning. Tendies for the boys says. Rip a weed pen. Hi_im_god_Ramus says. Sleeping until my body wants _ to wake up, not because of an alarm or small child jumping on me. NVRGP22 says, with a message from somebody I love. Life2311 says, baked. Mental excuses says, 5 AM in the water, 6 AM I'm home, ready to go to work. Can't start it like that currently cause I don't have all three things being location, a board or a job at the moment, but man do I miss it. The _Canadian_devil says, been going to the gym in the morning, it really helps set the mood for the rest of the day. It also convinces me to go to sleep at a normal time. Highlander 666666 says, cup cough then workout. Sack Dog says, every morning I wake up, I put on my Macup, then I say a little prayer for you. And forever and ever this song will be stuck in your head all day. Usink says, kiss my GF in sexy time. Diagonally Striped Rat says, cuddles, sweets and coffee. Tuog says, with coffee and then a now workout session. Relative_picture_786 says, with a wife and kids. Vixenium says, either with some video games or just don't start it at all. Herdek 550 says, without a hangover, suffering right now. Readded Law says, coffee. Tebanano says, with a run, early in the morning. Analep Bidorn says, rested from an 8-hour great night's sleep. Full of energy and ready to start a new day with a smile on my face. I'm just fantasizing here lol. Shotty SHD says, under a blanket. r/AskMen. Awake Kaleidoscope 380 says, what to do about friend that always brings his girlfriend out. Friend has a girlfriend and she is very nice and I have nothing against her being there. The problem is, when we couple, we always have one person DD and she takes a spot in the car away from someone else and forces us to take two cars. For me, if I'm bringing my girlfriend out, he'll drive separate or offer to drive, but he never does. He just expects it to be okay and doesn't even give a heads up until we get to his house. What's annoying is neither of them never even offer, and one of them always ends up being the ones that are blacked out at the end of the night. Their whole relationship is built on partying and drug abuse and the excuse is always they don't want a DUI, but seem perfectly fine with everyone else getting one. Aardvark Striking 256 says, this is what broke up the Beatles. Radiant Legend says, have you talked to him about this? If you haven't, he'll just keep expecting it to be okay because you haven't given him a reason to otherwise. Oddball 667 says, invite him after everyone else so there is only one spot left in the car. Userna Mesifi says, why do you hang out with this person and his girlfriend? They sound awful. I think you're better off without them in your life. Jakrit Espex says, step 1 is stop throwing shade at your friend BC he has a GF. Step 2, talk as a group about ED responsibilities and tell everyone they got to take their turn. Tell your friend he does too. NoFuture4 says, tell them to get an Uber. Quick to judge himself says, tell buddy his GF is sexy. He will keep her ass at home after that. Free_Spring says, talk to him about it. Rawfie says, Uber. Nautical_J says, if my friend's girlfriend/wives will be there, then it's fair game. If it's just the boys, then my wife understands she won't be coming. Same thing with her and her girlfriends. If she gets invited, or I get invited by the respective friend group, then that's fine. But to drag your significant other everywhere is kind of annoying. But if he has a girlfriend, and you are all perpetually single, then that's fair game as well. If you're the last one single, then this scenario gets flipped around. Back it up with links says. Stop inviting him. When he says WTF, tell him you keep bringing her and she takes up a seat, he'll figure it out. Throw away for Confessio says. Talk to your friend about it. Set up a rotation of DD that include them. Uber. Anonymous 80,909 says. Have you tried explaining the situation to him? If not, do so. There's a billion civil ways of handling this besides rage quit table flip. r/AskMen. Philo Babo says. Do guys like it when girls hold your hand first during early stages of dating, like third date? Wolf 93 says. If a guy has for his love language physical contact, yes. I'd love it tbh. Mia Space says. I used to hate holding hands. I wasn't very big on PDA when I was younger, then I got into a relationship with someone that was all about holding hands, but was really insecure in doing it because her hands got really sweaty. Because of that I made it a point to hold her hand at every opportunity, and now it became a habit even years after, and we are not together. Holding hands is a thing for me now, so it'd be nice if the person I'm dating initiates it. The GR3 says. I personally love it. Mental Excuses says. I mean, I hate holding hands, but there's no reason why you can't do it. Leonard Odopanchi says. I wouldn't, that's going way too fast in my view. Give me a couple of months before you try touching me. Prize_consequence 568 says. Depends on the man. Neminal 247 says. Personally, I'm all about it. I hate being touched, but if we're on a date by date 1, you already have implied permission to touch me. Bozo and Assalant K says. I'm usually the one doing it XD. Back and Toad says. AWW. Mr. Elon Poster says. Sure. Rudad 7901 says. Yes. Hand holding, while it has this cutie/platonic connotation, it's, in the early stages, a big signal that oh yeah, it's all coming together. Snowbeans 8816 says. My love language is physical, and that is what I want from a woman to. Third date is late stage. A perfect first date is already with hugs, cuddles, etc. Far Complained 2974 says. Yes. Master Teacher 123 says. Lol, by the third we are usually smashing. Vapagod_420 says. I'm sure most people will appreciate going for the move first. Gambu no for such says. Questions like this won't get any kind of meaningful answer. It's a very individual thing. Some guys will like it, some guys might not. It entirely depends on the person. No Future 4 says. How is it the third date and we're only just starting to hold hands is more my question. The _killing_throw says. Yes. r/AskMen. The Boy Who Lived says. What do you do when you feel alone? Brandon 48236 says. I go to bed early because when you go to sleep there's no lonely times, it's just dreams. Top Lead 670 says. I watch silly cat videos. 8 Livers Down says. I remind myself that loneliness a perfectly normal herding instinct, but that the Pleistocene epoch ended 13,000 years ago, and the original purpose of the instinct is no longer needed. I also remind myself that people in relationships also feel lonely, and that it's inherent to the human condition. Sander Rangers says. He's got a jacket. Anonymous 80,909 says. I read. Best escape ever. Blessed_rising_jazz says. I'll either sleep the feeling away Usually I'll jerk off. Or I'll just work out. Large mob of murderer says. Relax and enjoy it. Cap_13 says. I call chick and tell her to get her ass over here lickety split lol. But nah, usually I like being alone because it gives me time to clear my mind and to relax. So I usually take advantage of that. Angry Butt Liker says. Slither around on my belly chanting I once was a man. Introverted Snail says. Rub one out. Elmer_Homerop says. Watch 5 horror movies. After the third one you won't feel alone anymore. Custer Sombra says. Put on some music. Novasolid64 says. Great. Franz_Joseph_I says. Just keep feeling alone. Abject7 says. I like to wake up for days and read non-stop. Mental Excuses says. A single backflip usually not landing it. Kyoral Sadie says. Porn, video games, Reddit, alcohol. Halloween Trash says. I've always felt alone. All I do is beat the stick, eat, and watch anime/play video games, and go to work. I ended up finishing a bottle of liquor last night because of it. r/AskMen. Defender3 says. What kind of person do you feel attracted to? Edit. Which physical or characteristic traits should they have to make you feel attracted to them? Ruben_001 says. Big titted women. Life2311 says. As I've gotten older it's gradually become personality over looks. What you are inside defines you and makes you appealing to others. Beauty is skin deep as they say. Far Complained 2974 says. Short, fit, well kept and not slutty, preferably Asian. Powerful Address 320 says. One who don't say, who are you? What are you doing inside my house? When I meet her. Good day my fine fellow says. Brown girls my parents gave me 3 DVDs growing up. Road to El Dorado, Dora the Explorer and Aladdin. Then they acted all surprised when I grew up and I was consistently bringing home brown women. As if it's not their fault. That Volvo P2 guy says. Women unfortunately, I don't quite know exactly what type I'm attracted to. But the qualities that have been shared by the women I have found attractive are balance, healthy, pleasant to be around, overall positive energy, personality, or hint of it, and mental stability. Balance, or facial color balance to be more accurate. I really don't like fake up or dyed hair. I find that in most cases, not all, it completely messes up the color balance. Kyoral Sadie says. Nearly ever girl from r/smell boobs. Greetichurmichiel says. Confident, warm, outgoing, athletic, empathetic, in no particular order. Leonard Odopanchi says. None. I've spent 30 years training myself to not be attracted to anyone, and it's paid off. Vapagod_420 says. After reading the comments I feel you should be more specific. Echo Hole 5 says. Any woman who looks healthy is physically attractive. Stax says. I like independent people. I don't deal with nut jobs. I'm not taking any charity case either. Of course if they are into monogamy that's a deal breaker for me. Cap_13 says. Hispanic and white girls. Prize_consequence 568 says. Attractive people. Movim4Call says. Can't quite put a finger to it because it's not all the exact same. But every one of them I can describe as charming. Easy on the eyes, but can laugh and does take things too seriously. Shit that will melt you lol. Fected69 says. One with a pulse. Walrus_operator says, I like people who like me. r/AskMen. Not_the_troll says, where do you even begin to learn how to properly love yourself? At 35 years of age and 3 failed serious relationships, not marriages, later, I've realized that I have unhealthy relationship patterns and go for people who are actually unhealthy for me and are possibly the worst ones to be with in terms of triggering my fears of betrayal, getting hurt, fear of infidelity, not being good enough for them, shame, etc. I tend to go for people who look like they need help and fixing, but really I'm just taking my focus off of myself and putting it on someone else. And to sum it up, that's because I really don't even know what loving my own self looks like. So where do I even start? It feels like something very selfish to me. I'm going into therapy for these things soon, but I also wanted to get my fellow men's opinion. Thank you. Artist in residence says, I tend to go for people who look like they need help and fixing, but really I'm just taking my focus off of myself and putting it on someone else. I find that usually men do this when they are deeply unsatisfied with something about themselves. For instance, they may have body issues, sexual performance issues, etc. Hence, they choose partners to rescue because it gives them a sense of control over a situation in which they know the other person needs them for something and won't easily leave them due to their insecurities they may have. This is a kind of controlling type relationship which is fueled by one's ego due to self-hatred of themselves. If a woman seems confident, together, intelligent, this will intimidate a man who has deep-seated insecurities in which he secretly thinks he will be rejected. Based on the fears he has about himself, I made a post a while back about what men felt insecure about when getting naked with a lady, and a lot of men had insecurities relating to their penis. In an era where porn is ubiquitous, many men may think the ideal penis is like that in porn and may develop a complex about their size, shape, skin coloring, etc. Otherwise, I think many men in our era suffer from health issues on ADHD meds and the like, and some might consider themselves handicapped in a way and think they are unlovable. Hence they choose a woman to rescue who's in a worse situation than they are because it allows them feel in control of a relationship. The way to overcome this is to embrace what is, to openly embrace what is ailing you, and what about yourself makes you feel insecure. I recall a guy who was interested in me, and he kept thinking that I liked him out of pity. Lol, he had some medical issues, but I never thought he was pi. Today I fricked UPL because of them. I rather thought on the contrary he was strong and resilient. However, he kept choosing women who were train wrecks because he didn't think any woman would accept him. Gore Dog says, therapy. The answer is therapy. Sumrando 1967 says, with your apparent level of self-awareness, I doubt you'll find a therapist that can keep up with you. YouTube has lots of great info about intergenerational trauma, GABA-mat, and attachment styles. Preeb, I, M55, have been going through the turbulence of healing in the last year or so, and may be ready for a healthy relationship. One_small_sunflower says, I tend to go for people who look like they need help and fixing, but really I'm just taking my focus off of myself and putting it on someone else. And to sum it up, that's because I really don't even know what loving my own self looks like. I'm a woman and I have no words of wisdom for you, but I just wanted you to know that when I read this, it stopped me in my tracks. You put it so well. I'm like this too. I'm working on mapping out what my needs/goals/dreams are and making sure I take care of myself. Anyway, solidarity brother, and good luck to you on your journey. 3. Who a tough illiterate says, hey there pal. I'm 44, have been in 2 failed marriages. I've been in a handful of short relationships in the past year and a half. But I love myself. You've got to take one day at a time and just play the cards life has dealt you. Have fun. Slack off. Follow a passion. I'll probably be dead in 25 years, and if I'm lucky my grandkids might have a grainy photo of me on some website nobody looks at. Which is liberating. Live your life however the hell you want, man. It's about a day I fricked UPL thing. Small Town Disco says, if you are on Twitter, drive. Nicole Lepera has absolutely amazing guidance every day for healing from past relationship trauma and just generally being your best self. It's really down to earth advice and certainly worth at least checking it out to see if it's the kind of thing that resonates with you. r/AskMen. I love Ferrero says, how would guys feel if a girl asks for their phone number first? Would it be seen as coming out too strong or desperate? Well, I did that and was wondering if it can be seen as something negative. Snoolemons 5609 says, most men would engage in conversation with a tree if it approaches us first. Evilc says, I'd be stoked. Horfield says, I would feel good, and it's probably the best way to let me know that you're interested in me. I've actually become attracted to women after knowing for sure that she's interested in me. Mental Excuses says, wouldn't be too strong or negative. The Inner Mind Eye says, surprised, hopeful, suspicious. Winter_diligence says, it would be a nice change for me. I'm only an average guy, so it's very rare for them to ask me first. Nice_flutin_Alfie says, shocked, surprised, nervous, suspicious. XJ68 says, I would like that. Johanna Brown says, one time I edited up and accidentally rejected a girl that did that. She was hot too. My friends still laugh at me for that shit and it's been a couple of years now lol. Zegooseman says, I'd be shocked and flattered, assuming I already knew and liked her somewhat would also make her even more attractive. Hannah66 says, normal. The Brother 1844 says, I'm happy. On a Heart Higher says, nothing feels desperate to me. Kyoral Sadie says, surprised. Why was she talking to me in the first place? Leonard Odopanchi says, since it's something I'm not expecting to happen, my knee-jerk reaction would be to decline. Then a few hours later or maybe even a day later I would regret it. I wouldn't see it as negative or too aggressive or anything. It's just not something that happens to me, so if it did I would, figuratively, run away screaming into the sunset. But then again, I've always the freak of the flock, so who knows? I want it that way says, nothing negative about it. I would be happy. Crease2340 says, it's ideal. Cap_13 says, it's happened before, and I like it, because it obviously shows that she likes you, and not only that, but because it also shows that she's not afraid to take the initiative. Phantomy555 says, no, why be afraid to express interest in someone you like? I've had it happen before, though you can say we should share contact info instead, if it sounds less desperate. Far Complained 2974 says, great. Slender Mantra says, no, not at all, just flattering. r/AskMen. Neanrally47 says, if you have been praised for having good qualities by female friends, but still had trouble finding someone interested beyond friendship, what did you do to change that? This is something I see men come up with semi-regularly in the advice subs. My perception of seeing men like this in real life is, they are either shy and have trouble starting conversation with a woman, or has a passive way of pursuing someone, or they have trouble flirting and bantering with women, having conversations that are beyond friendly. They feel somewhat uncomfortable being flirty and to banter, because they aren't adept to conversing that way, and feel like they will say the wrong thing cause it doesn't come to them naturally. I have my own perception, but I wanted to hear from more personal perspective of men who went through this and solved it. Atrex can't catch things says, I don't know, usually it's a nice way of saying you're ugly or have no idea how to flirt. With that being said, finding someone who's genuinely interested in you is hard for women as well. Sure, finding hookups is easier, but an actual partner, there's close to no difference to guys. It's finding water in a desert vs finding water in a swamp. Christo7979 says, I have found staying in the narrow window between confidence and arrogance is the best place to start. Not wishy-washy, but not over the top either. From there, just talk about what she is interested in. Ask lots of questions and be genuinely interested in the answers. Learn about common interests. Get to know her beyond the surface how's the weather stuff. If the conversation is awkward, the relationship probably will be too. See background 5779 says, I had this issue throughout college, many female friends who praised me, while I'd remain unhappy and single. It was low confidence from childhood issues. The times they'd try to get my romantic attention, or set me up with a friend I'd always find a way to frick it up. After college I was really low, didn't know what I was doing with my life, and joined a service corps program for a year. It changed my life. I met a lot of people, thousands, while doing good work for emergency preparedness in our community. That included meeting many women who I was compatible with, and some of them were in close enough proximity and close circumstances that I couldn't any longer ignore blatant interest. That woke me up and started dating my wife after knowing her for that year. That was just the beginning of the process. I'm grateful she's a patient woman and waited through my alcoholism until I finally started dealing with the cause of my avoidant behavior 6 months ago. GSD_dad says, make yourself more physically attractive. Lose some weight and hit the gym. Or if you are how I used to be, hit the gym and gain some weight. Traps, lats, and obliques. They work wonders. Mojabytes says, not going to change it. What's considered attractive and how dating is carried out were decided long before me and aren't my fault. I'm shy, passive and don't like vague flirting, and these are not the negative qualities you seem to think they are. The satisfaction of regularly hearing that I'd be a great partner and knowing a woman will never have it will need to be enough. Intriguing Knight says, they can't pop the consent bubble that turns an interaction sexual. For flirting to exist, someone has to push the boundaries of a relationship. Those men have been conditioned to only do what makes women comfortable without ever pushing the bounds. The thing is though, women are attracted to men who push their boundaries, very slowly, obviously. The attraction is in the mystery and intrigue. Antici_patient says, be moric. r/AskMen. Heat Arrows says, men, is it easier for you to talk and flirt with women you have a crush on or don't have a crush on? Why? F0000R says, don't have a crush on. I find the ones I do like I end up either being too obvious about it and they end up knowing, or I try to hide it too much and I come off as an ass/as interesting as cardboard. Deputy 865 says, at this point in my life, 33, single, it doesn't matter. I still can't tell if a girl actually likes me or not, so I keep consistent and hope it sticks with someone I like. Temporary Product 928 says, I don't flirt. I don't pick up on it, I don't understand how to do it, and it adds a subtle layer to a communication method that I struggle with when there are no subtle layers added. Best_of_/Slanesh says, way easier when I don't have a crush on them. I don't really care if I succeed or not. I've only ever had a few crushes in my life, so it feels much more high stakes. Kinda like driving a Bugatti vs a Beta rental car. Oddball 667 says, don't, if the stakes are low it's easy. Hoonigan 0690 says, I'm shy. Artist in residence says, I would say whom I have a crush on, then I'm motivated to make an effort in conversation. However, I like talking to all sorts of various people, young and old, who appear intelligent and have something I can learn about. Adam Admond says, honestly haven't had a crush in over 10 years, so I think this problem was well and truly behind me. 3 Impossible Setting 79 says, both my relationships started with people I thought were slightly unattractive. I struggle to talk to people I'm attracted to. Diagonally Striped Rat says, don't, obviously. There's no consequences to failure. XMT is awesome says, I seem to do better when I don't really know the chick. It's like a fresh slate. When I have history with a chick then it feels personal. Icewerat Kid says, I don't flirt because I respect their time and don't want to waste it. Shifter6 says, don't have a crush on. The more I have a crush on them, the dumber the shit comes out of my mouth. Mad Haberdasher says, something about my personality causes me to shamelessly flirt with most women I meet within reason. Nothing serious, but it livens up everyone's day a bit, and everyone feels good about themselves. I'm a middle-aged white dude. My absolute favorite ladies to flirt with are elderly black women. They are so much fun. That being said, I flirt with ladies I'm interested in. It's just more subtle. Fruitbit says, neither. I don't get crushes anymore, or if I do, I barely notice. No problem talking to anyone for that matter. r/AskMen. Scary at 1345 says, what's your protocol around paying for women/drinks/dinner? Are you in the black/red? The reason bidden one says, when we started dating my GF, and I would go out for dinner every night to a restaurant near our workplace that we liked. I always paid. Then later we got married, and she bought us a house. Damana Hat says, I pay for the first few dates, but then I do expect her to go half or chip in what she can. I've never had an issue. Most women I've gone out with have offered really early. New_classic_90 says, if it's a date I'm paying. Justanabadi says, I'll gladly pay for dates, but if she tries to take advantage of it, no second date. I'll be a gentleman, but don't push it. Actualigen Melendez says, totally dependent on the girl. I always pay on the first date. If I'm serious about you, I'll probably pay for the rest. My GF pays for stuff like groceries and things around the house. I pay when I take her out places and we both buy each other gifts. We never really discussed it, just the rhythm we settled into. Sibrilusk says, I don't do dates early on that require any significant financial investment. First few dates I'll pay for coffee or something cheap, but that's about it. When I was paying for dinner dates in my 20s, I realized pretty quickly that none of them ever lead to a second date, and I was likely being used for a free meal a lot of the time. Doobie Brotherhood says, the value my wife has added to my life is priceless, so I'm way in the black. I'm sure I paid for most dates, but it always was in approximate relation to how much we each made. The_River_Nahill says, first couple dates I don't mind making it worth their time, but I definitely wouldn't turn down the option to split it. After the first few we are definitely splitting it, because I'm not trying to establish a dynamic where I'm a meal ticket or a carb daddy as I like to call it. Black Spicy Pearl says, I've always offered to pay if it's a date, and usually only on the first. I think 90% of all my previous dates just said they will pay their share/split the bill. If it's just friends or non-date situations, the default is to split, but that depends too. Mraze94 says, I certainly have no problem paying for it. If they decline, then I go with the flow. I think like in a first date type of situation or first outing, it is common for the guy to pay. After that it becomes shared. This is my experience. Article 67 says, get them to pay for you. That's the power move. Prize_consequence 568 says, don't. Dinosaur Promotion says, they usually ask me out, so they pay. If I ask them out then I pay. We go for tea and cake, not dinner. I'm well in the black. Raho Wasoon says, depends who I'm out with. If I'm with a girl who works at Starbucks I don't expect her to spend half her monthly wages on a date. If she works in a well-paid job and she doesn't at least offer to pay for herself there won't be a second date regardless of how well it went. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.